So, Laura Kockler, welcome so much to the Scenic Route podcast. How are you?
I'm just going to tell you.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Kockler.
Kockler. Did I say it right now? Kockler.
Kockler.
Kockler?
Kockler.
Kockler.
Like Coke and Pepsi. Kockler.
Oh, Kockler. Okay.
Don't worry, everyone says it like that.
Okay. So Lily, my lovely podcast editor, she will cut this out. Then we're gonna whoop, rewind. Perfect. So Laura Kockler, welcome so much to Scenic Route podcast. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat with you.
Yes, me too. And especially, I really like that for once it's light here when I do these recordings. Usually when I talk to all the lovely US people, it's dark outside when I talk. So it's
the
nice.
Roles are reversed.
It is. So Laura, to kind of give us an idea who you are, can you briefly walk us through your story, how you started, how you got where you're today, what were the winding roads, the pivotal moments, the big crossroads?
Yeah. Well, I have to say, I never thought I would be an entrepreneur. That wasn't ever in my mind, at all. It wasn't ever.
What did you want it to be when you were a kid? Did you also have these friendship books when you were I don't know, in primary school or undergrad, and then you would write in what I want to be when I grow up?
Oh yeah. I mean, I remember early on I wanted to be an actress, which I am an introvert, so I don't know how that was, but I was always going to be a teacher. I was always going to be a teacher. I went to college for teaching. That was not it. So I dropped that, but I think we're all kind of teachers in a way anyway, so it kind of works out. But yeah, my road to entrepreneurship is kind of, very unique, but yet I think very similar to a lot of us. It kind of started when I was a stay-at-home mom after we had our first child. And then, you get to the point where you need outside interaction and adult conversation.
Oh my God. Yes. Between all the dirty nappies, there's only so much you can take. At one point you're I need the other stimulation. Yes.
And so I ventured into direct sales, and I did that. And then after a couple of years, I was I really want something just for myself. I want something that's mine. I want something that.
So when you went into direct sales, you were employed. So it wasn't your business. You were not building your business right away.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
It wasn't mine. And the thought of going back to a 9-to-5, oh no.
Yeah. We all relate.
Yeah, no. And so I was really thinking about what do I like? What am I interested in enough that will hold my attention to build a business around? And that's when okay, well, I love food. That's my love language.
Oh yes, same.
Food. And then supporting women. So I was what could I do with that? And then one day a subscription box idea came to me.
Oh, around food. Oh, lovely.
Yeah. So I ended up starting my own subscription box, which was food and beverage items from women-owned businesses in the States.
Oh, that's lovely. Yeah, that's such a cool
Loved
idea.
it. Loved it. And I did that for over a year. And then I started to really get into okay, what is my purpose? What am I most happy doing? What's the future going to look like? And I always wanted to help the women who I was featuring in my boxes, right? I always just wanted to be okay, we got to get your name out there. And
let me become your manager and make you a big star.
This is such a good product. Let's, blow it up. And so I made the decision to pivot my business. So I closed my subscription box business down, and I pivoted to become a virtual assistant for subscription box businesses. Because I knew I had the experience of managing all the things while being a wife and mom and doing all the things. And for any business, it's hard. And so that was something that I didn't really see a lot of, like in the industry.
Yeah.
There were obviously, but
yeah, I mean, sure, it's very niche. Like, so that probably
yes.
that helped you big time, I suppose.
Yeah. And so I pivoted, and it was the best pivot I could have ever done. And, you know, it's scary to do something like that. There's a lot of emotion and feelings that go into that. But I always say it was the best pivot, because I truly 100%, like, for the first time in my life, I feel like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, I'm not searching for the next thing.
Oh,
I know that this is it, you know.
yeah.
And
So was that a
yeah,
constant, always kind of like always, like, to some extent unconsciously, always on the lookout of like what could be my next thing, what could be like
absolutely.
truly capture my, like, my attention, my everything?
Yeah, and that wasn't like not even just in adulthood, but like I just always remember I
Yeah.
was looking like, purpose sounds so like grandiose, but
Yeah, I know.
I was always like, what's next? Like, what's
Yeah,
gonna
or
wait?
kind of like there's got to be more. Like, this is,
Right.
yeah. I mean, it's, yeah, I relate. Like, yeah, like you're always kind of, this is amazing and this is cool and well done, me, but I can't like help but wondering, and then your
Right.
mind goes a little.
Right. Like, there's a difference between, like, I think enjoying what you're doing and liking what you're doing, but then feeling like this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, like this is
Kind
like
of
a
a,
more deeper fulfillment
yeah,
thing.
yeah. So yeah, so I've been doing, I don't really like the word virtual assistant, because I don't do the typical like VA task. But I've really kind of niched down to helping women-owned subscription boxes and e-commerce brands. And I love doing strategy. Um, I feel like it's like a puzzle, which I love puzzles. And it's like taking all the ideas that we have and
Yeah.
all the things and putting it together into a nice, pretty puzzle for everyone. So I love doing, sorry, excuse me.
Yeah, no worries.
I love doing strategy. I love doing email things. I love like helping those brands like build that connection. Because I'm all about like, you have to share your story. That's what connects people.
Yeah. And I mean, I mostly work with service providers, but when I was working back in the agency side, it was mostly product-based businesses, and there goes so much more into, oh my God, purchasing, like storage, like shipping. It's a nightmare. So I get it. Like, if you're like, I can just do like the fun bit of like doing the boxes, putting together, and then also kind of like outsource all the other things, like the putting everything together and wrapping. Yeah, I don't know. It's already
there's
like
just there's a laundry list of things, and in this past summer I launched a fulfillment side of my business, where I'm actually doing the fulfillment of boxes and products. And people are like, that sounds like a lot, and I'm like, it is, but it's not, because again, it kind of goes back to like, I was meant to do this. I was meant to do the subscription box to learn all the things. And then now I'm working my business in a way where I'm so happy, and I'm able to kind of, like, I never would have been able to start a fulfillment side of my business if I didn't have the experience of my subscription box. I would never know any. I mean, there's a lot of like nuances when it comes to that, like you were saying, and it's just, I don't know where I was going with this.
I can circle back. I circle back to a bit earlier where we're like, tell us like your backstory so we can all get to know you. When you said beautifully, and I thought it was like a special phrasing, so I want to like go deeper there. You said starting your own subscription box was like the first time you felt like, oh, this idea is holding my attention for longer.
Yeah.
So do you want to tell us like about, like, I think it's such a special phrase, like holding attention. Where does it come from?
You know, there's always, and I've always come from the frame of mind where you work to live. Okay, you don't live to work. And
is it also how have you been raised, or was there like a difference in your parental home?
I don't know if I don't, you know, it's not like my parents were some kind of like hippie, you know, like there's nothing like it was like just very normal, typical, you know. But that's just how I am. And I truly believe that if you're going to work, you should be doing a job that you love and you're passionate about, because who the heck wants to work and not, you know, have some form of fulfillment, or like you don't want to go to work every day and hate it, right? Like I
ideally not.
Right. Like of course, yes. Ideal world,
I get
of course, absolutely.
Yeah, like, no, I get it. Like if you, I mean, there's a certain level of privilege attached to that, for sure.
Absolutely.
But yes, ideally, I mean, it's not, we know if you're resenting what you do every day, it's ultimately not good for your mental well-being, of course, and also not for your body. Like it's just not good for your well-being overall, point, right? Like,
and I think there's been like this shift where it's not just you get a job and you stay with that job no matter what. There's this huge shift now where no, like you find, even if you're not working for yourself, you find a job that you enjoy, you find a company that treats you well. Like we're finally seeing that shift.
We see it slowly, I'd say.
Slowly, yes. But it's happening.
Yes. It's changing for sure. But I'd like to change faster. But that's just me.
And you know, I always tell people, like, you have to really be interested in what you're doing for your business. It doesn't matter if it's the trendy thing that's happening now. It doesn't matter if you know, it's like the it thing to start your business doing X, Y, and Z. If you don't enjoy it, if you're not interested in it, you're not going to be successful at it, because there's no interest, right? So it's like if I like started a company about, I don't know, like gardening, I kill every plant. Like it's not going to happen. Right? Like I'm not going to want to work on it. I'm not going to want to, you know, put in the time and all that kind of stuff. So it's really like you have to find something, I think, and especially being an entrepreneur, it has to be something that isn't just, oh, this is what's in right now, or this is
or like this
what
is
social media
or this
pushing.
is what's needed, and then I don't know, go
That's
out
the thing.
and do that.
The need, like you have to be able to fill a need, and it doesn't have to be like this big huge thing, because sometimes the need is like humor, fun, you know, because
absolutely. I mean, there are different like pyramid, like there's a pyramid of needs and different needs for sure, like, and the need for entertainment and just like getting your mind off things,
and you know, like keeping your attention too, like someone with ADHD, like that's a whole other level. But it still goes back to like you have to be invested and interested, and it can't just be a fad, because that doesn't stick no matter what.
I get it. And like how, tell me more about I'm curious, because I feel like for you especially, correct me if I'm wrong, but you said like, oh, it was the subscription box thing, it was the one thing that I felt like was holding my attention. And so being really invested in what you do helps everyone, but it's probably even more, or I don't know if more so, but it surely was is beneficial if you have ADHD. Do you experience that as well? Like,
most definitely, because there's so many moving parts. So it definitely, like for me, satisfies that tendency of like jumping around for lack of a better way of describing it.
Yeah.
Because there are so many different nuances with it. You know, but that doesn't go without having challenges too, though. So
yes, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh,
yes.
I mean, nothing it goes without. But speaking of challenges, what did you feel was like the biggest challenge when you pivoted from your own subscription box to supporting women who own subscription services?
Oh, that's a good question. I want to say, and I don't say this to sound holier than thou. I don't know if there was a very big challenge, like there was, because it was still so similar, and I was so confident in doing this, like so confident, and like this is what I have to do. This is what this has to happen.
Yeah.
You know, the challenges I would say are, you know, nothing that I didn't feel I could handle. I think because of my experiences with my subscription box, it made me a lot more comfortable than if I was just like had no background knowledge, any of that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
You know, and I think it kind of just goes back to like I really like felt and knew in my soul that this was what I needed to do.
Yeah.
So I wasn't really too afraid of whatever challenges.
Yeah.
You know, come your way.
It sort of was meant to happen. Like,
yeah.
Right? Like as kind of like you, I don't know, I sometimes could describe it as kind of like you see your next steps kind of like illuminated in front of you as they appear as you go, right? Like it's just like, oh, okay, just gonna do that, and then oh, okay, now I do this, and then it just sort of falls into place in a weird way.
That's exactly, that's a great way to put it. That's a great way to put it.
So I'm curious, like when you said like, okay, there weren't you just kind of knew that you wanted to do this, and I get that. Like how now, like in your current business, how do you set goals, and how do you set goals?
Oh, I love that question. So I will be the first one to tell you that I'm really bad at like writing down my goals. Do as I say, not as I do.
You can also dance them. I don't care.
Yes. I think again, it like the goals, you have to be able to be working towards something, right?
Yeah.
And for me, the goals that I have for my business are not just goals like monetary goals or, you know, those kind of like superficial goals. And I use that word like, you know, the goals of my company are founded in female empowerment and supporting women, and not just supporting them like through the services I provide, but really being a catalyst and a change agent for women in general and women-owned businesses. Like it's a foundational value that has a much bigger goal than me. And you know, it's something that I want to serve as a shift in you know, the universe.
Yeah. No. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
So what kind of like do you track any type of goals for yourself? Like it doesn't have to be like OSN money goals, but like do you track like or check like I don't know, time off or like mental well-being, or what do you do?
I laugh a little bit with mental well-being because I feel like I feel like as entrepreneurs, like we have to like stop with the like rose colored glasses of like entrepreneurship. Like
Oh,
being
for
your own
sure.
being your own boss is so damn hard.
Hmm.
And because you're the one setting the goals, right? Like you don't have
Yeah.
a
But
supervisor
if you
saying, okay,
fail, you
well,
fail. You fail,
yeah,
not your company fail. But
we have to reach these metrics. Like there's no
yes.
one giving you that.
Yes.
And I think like mental well-being is always a work in progress when you have your own business. Like
Yeah.
there's the ebbs and flows of it. Um, but when I'm looking at like a goal that I have for myself, you know, I think of the goal and then you have to work your way back because how are we then going to
Hmm.
reach that goal? You
Yeah.
know, it's just like anything. If you want to earn X amount of dollars, if you want to sell X amount of products, so on, you know, you set that goal and then what are the steps that you have to do to get
Hmm.
to that goal?
Yeah.
And you know, for me, for in my industry, a lot of the times, you know, my clients are like, well, I want more subscribers.
Mm. Yeah.
Of course. There's a lot of steps though that then you have to break down. So it's like all
Mm.
these mini goals because a lot of times people will say, well, I want to, you know, grow my subscription box. I want to increase my subscribers.
Yes. I mean, that's the bottom line, right? Like, I mean, we
Right.
all like, oh,
Right.
yes, makes
Absolutely.
perfect sense. Yes.
But that is such a large, intimidating goal
Mm.
is that we have to, I really try to focus on like those smaller goals. Like every
Yeah.
single step that gets you there is a goal. Like check it
Yes.
off, celebrate it, and know that you are moving closer to
Yes.
the end goal, that
Yeah.
big end scary goal, you know? But it's really about having like those specific.
Yeah. I mean, it also helps you to actually knowing what you want to do, right? Like, I mean, if you just have this big end goal, like more subscribers, like it's like, or more clients, or
Right.
you're like, where do I
But I
even
do, you know,
start? Right? It's,
yeah, I
yeah, as you
do
said, it's
think
so intimidating.
like those posts that you see on social media, like, what would an extra $5,000 do for you? Like, why? Like, no one's gonna be like, no, I don't want any more money. But I think like a lot of now the shift for us is like more emotional and personal goals of like you said, like
Mm.
I want to be able to not check my phone
Yeah.
and get to the point where I have everything running
Yes.
and I don't have to be, you know, checking all the things, or I want to be able to go away for the weekend and
Yeah.
actually be present with my family,
Yeah.
you know, those kind of
Yeah.
things.
I like that.
And it's hard. It is, I mean, those are hard to do because again, we've been so ingrained with the hustle and, you know,
Yeah,
doing all
we're
the
not doing the
things.
hustle highway here on the scenic route.
No, we are definitely not. And even that word, like I have like a visceral
Oh,
reaction when I hear that word. Like I'm just like,
yeah, it's,
oh, can we
yeah,
just like put it in the
yeah.
like
Ugh. Yeah, the same goes
graveyard of
there. There's
words?
just, yeah, there's like, there's so many of the same. It goes to me in the same kind of like bullshit category as mompreneur. Like, oh, even like, no,
Girl boss.
oh, girl balls is the worst. Fempreneur, like there's those, you know, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I get it in the sense of like, if it's a hashtag, you find your community and shit. Like, I get it to some
Yeah.
extent, but I don't know. It makes my skin crawl.
Yeah, me too.
Like,
Like
if
it
I see,
because it is, it's like again, and that's why I like there's so many amazing people, including yourself, that are like knocking that down and like bringing to light that that is not the vision. Like that is
mm.
not what is going to like propel you. That
Yeah, or
hustle is
necessarily
not.
also showing first, yeah, and showing just like there is another way, right? Because I remember when I started the online business world, it was kind of like that was like the dominant thing 2017, where like where all you could hear was like the girl boss and like the I don't know, and there was like these
Get yourself a
prominent
side
figures.
hustle.
Yes, exactly. Do an online course and do a funnel, and you do all these prominent example. I don't want to do names now, but like we all know, right?
Yeah.
And like, well, that's cool, but I feel there has to be another way, because that way, the hustle highway, it doesn't work for a lot of people, right?
And it's
either because they're like, nope, like I don't know, have the wisdom that this is all shit, or like me, where like I don't know, I was at the point where I just like my body was like, no, like stop. And like similar, for you, if you're dealing with ADHD, there's just, I don't know, protecting your mental well-being is,
it's a toxic cycle.
Yeah,
it's a toxic cycle that you know, it's not to like hate on those, you know, gurus.
No, I don't care.
But at the same time, we need to be pushing back on that, because I mean, we all experience it. Like we see the industry gurus say, this is so easy, you know, add this to your business and, you know, become a bajillionaire. And it's like, and then it starts that toxic cycle of, well, why is it not working for me?
Yeah.
I'm
Am
doing
I not
all
good
the
enough?
Things. Right. And that's not even the case. Like, I totally know what you're saying, and we're probably thinking of the same person. And it's just like, no. And I recently did I don't know if it was on TikTok or Instagram or both, but I did a post where I was like, you don't need the course. You don't need to add this to your tool belt right now.
Yeah.
Because the hardest part is just doing all the shit. Like, it's just like, because you get to a point you're like, okay, well, this isn't working, so maybe I'll just do this. I mean, just do this.
Yeah, exactly. Like, be really intentional about why you're buying a course, right? Like, if you want to learn about Facebook ads because you feel curious about like running Facebook ads, then do a course.
Yeah.
Right. But the intention is different, right? Like sometimes or most of the times, myself included, and I see it with my clients before they come see me, it's like the intention is like, oh, I have to do this course on funnels, and this course is gonna save me.
This is it. Yep.
Right. And that's like a totally different energy and motivation you go into this, right? Like, it's this better work, or like I am out on the street, and it's just not gonna work with that.
And that's, you know,
pressure you put on yourself. Like, it's,
and it is very much. And I'll tell you a quick story about
please.
One of my clients. She has an e-commerce business, and we were talking, and she's like, you know, I'm thinking about doing a subscription box, like adding that into my business model. And I will be the first one to tell you, like, when it's not a good idea, because you know, it's thrown about, like, just start a subscription box. And it's like, no, like, because at the end of the day, if your foundational e-commerce business or any business is not efficient and effective, then adding something is not going to be efficient and effective. You have to remedy,
especially something with so many parts, right? Like,
like you have to remedy the core first, right? Like, and adding stuff does not mean better at all.
No, that reminds me of a conversation I had once with a coaching client. We were putting together an offer, and she was like, well, I'm gonna we're like, okay, what do you have in mind? She was like, well, I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna like add like a live call and like a Voxer follow-up and like da, 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 da. And I'm like, that's cool if you want to do this, but just adding more shit to it, and it goes for everything, to your offer, to your landing page, to whatever. It's not gonna solve the issue if something in the root at the core of it, it's just not working.
And that's, another thing too. It's like, okay, well, I'll just put out a discount. Okay, you can sell something for $1, but if you don't have any connection, if you're not building that connection with people, like consumers know bullshit. Like,
yeah,
they can smell it a mile away. And that's where like it's really about like creating authentic connections with people. And like that ultimately is what will help like fuel your brand and your business and things like that. But like just adding stuff, it's just more to juggle.
Yeah. And also I love what you said about like the personal connections. And it's so true, right? We always underestimate like that, or we never really, the first people who buy from you, whether that's a service or a product, are most likely people you already know.
Yeah.
Right? Like we I don't know, we tend to kind of like be, oh, okay, I'm gonna I don't know, rather run ads to talk to strangers than be vulnerable enough to talk to, I mean, don't tell it to your grandma unless you're selling, I don't know, socks or heated blankets, right? Like that's not the point. But
I like a heated blanket.
I mean, me too. But like talk to the right people, right? And
Absolutely.
I mean, most of us have been in corporate for a number of years. So we all have a network of people we already know who don't all think we're crazy loonies. And like talk to them first before you're kind of like, adding more onto what you want to do, right? Like,
and I
running
think,
ads is something added on that you might not need.
Yeah, that's, and I think that's also like why I'm so much about like being personable and like showing like that behind the scenes, because we don't see it. And I've been on the receiving end of that toxicity where it's like everyone looks perfect. And that's why like I share my own struggles, because it's like if I am experiencing it, I know someone else is too. And I know what it feels like to like be doing all the things in your business and feeling like shit because you're comparing yourself. And it's not like you reach a point where you never compare yourself again.
Probably
like
not,
that's gonna no, like, but you're, it's a little bit different. And that's why like for me, I share what I share on my socials and things, because that's just like who I am as a person, and that seeps into my business. Like I want to be able to work with people that I actually enjoy. Like it's not like I want to work with people who are aligned with my values. And
yes, so you got to show your values too, otherwise it's kind of like a two-way street.
Like if I could never like work with someone who's all about the hustle. Like we don't match. No. And that's okay.
That's perfectly fine. Yes, absolutely. No, but like be intentional about where you're like, and also where you're able to be like, okay, that's okay. Like I don't have to be fully on board, but I don't have to like resent it. Right. Like
and I think too, like
where's the line?
When we talked like with our pre-call about like the hot mess stuff, that's like why I show some of the shit show, because you can't separate it. Like if your personal self is struggling, your business is going to struggle, and vice versa, And so like we're all going through the stuff. Like as moms, I mean, come on.
But yet, like we all go through this stuff, and like intellectually, we all know we all go through this stuff, and at the same time, there is so much shame in sharing the hot mess. It's not done so much,
right?
It's not done so candidly, open, like out in the open, talking about struggles.
And it doesn't mean like you have to like lay out your dirty laundry for everyone, but it's I was having a very honest conversation with a client who I love, and I'm very upfront, like life is a hot mess. You may have to remind me of certain things right now. But again, it's like you can still be successful. Like she still understands my value and my work ethic, and all of that comes with it, that me like needing a little bit of grace because life is a hot mess right now. It doesn't, it's not like detrimental, right? Like it's not like the world isn't going to fall apart because I'm owning up and admitting and to being a hot mess. Like I think as women we take on all the things without even having a business, and we we put ourselves last and all that kind of stuff. And there, of course, life is going to be a hot mess at some, it's a season, right?
Yes.
It comes and goes, and you can still be very successful and have a great business and make an impact, but still be a hot mess. Like,
yes, those are
they
not
can't,
yeah,
they can't see
they don't
me, but like
each other out.
If you like look at my socials, like I don't like makeup is not the vision for me. Like I just can't. Like,
that's cool.
I show up as I show up.
Yeah.
And that's just that. Again, there's nothing wrong with if you're the complete opposite. That's fine. The thing is you have to be true and show up as your true self, because otherwise it's exhausting.
Oh yeah. I mean, you're putting up a charade, and at the same time, like there are moments like where you go back into the comparison, right? And especially, I don't know how true it rings for you, but I mean, I like coming from brand design and strategy, like corporate, like agency work, there were all these like super cool people. Like now accidentally, of course I wear black, but I usually don't wear black. And they were all like dressed in black, and they were like super cool, and they were all reading like super cool design magazines and always talking about like super cool designers and exhibitions and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Like it's not really my scene. And then sometimes and then like on the not so great days, right? Like I wonder, maybe like it would be easier if you have like the beige girl boss kind of like image, with like the straightened hair and the perfect eyeliner, to kind of like be, hey, I work in design, look, and you can see.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, well, and then I'm like, no, I don't really care.
But I think that like you have to like kind of like comes with age, and you get to a point, I feel like, where you're just like, okay, like whatever. And I feel like for me, I'm at that point, like whatever, like I don't care. I got there's too many things going on. It's fine, know.
It's fine. It's always fine.
It's always fine.
Like, tell me, like we've talked now, like the hot mess thing. How was it like do you remember like the first time you were owning up to like on socials, like, hey, I am a hot mess? Like how was that for you? Like how was that experience? Do you remember?
I don't like have like this like core memory of like this was the post or this was the thing. I think anytime that you show that vulnerability, it doesn't matter how comfortable you may be with it, it's still scary, right? But every time that I've shown the hot mess or something along those lines, there's always someone who's like, yeah, me too. I'm right there with you. And
yes,
I recently did on my Instagram stories, I made a post and I was like, raise your hand if you're completely exhausted, physically, mentally, need like a month vacation alone, but yet are so passionate about your business that you keep doing it. And there was so many women who were like, get out of my head. Yes. Like, so I think it's just important to like, yes, recognize like the successes and cheer each other on and celebrate, but it's also like we have to be able to commiserate too, because
Yes, absolutely.
The whole like we have to be able to say, yeah, like it's okay that you're like going through shit. It's okay that you're like not you're in a you're in a maybe not a happy season or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, that's kind of providing pushback on that toxicity, the toxic positivity,
Yeah. Yes.
that unless we do show up in some way, shape, or form,
Mm-hmm.
it's never going to change, right? Like it's just we have to provide that
Mm-hmm.
pushback. But at the same time, also it got me thinking like, okay, well, if we're all experiencing this,
There's a collective like structural problem.
right, right. It's like, okay, then we still I remember responding like, the good news is you're not alone. The bad news is we're not alone. Like
Yeah, yeah.
we're all kind of doing this. But I think it's really important to show the struggles and the hot mess, um,
Mm-hmm.
because that toxic positivity, it's so damaging. It's so
Yeah.
damaging. Um, and being an entrepreneur is hard. It's hard. It's
Mm-hmm.
not like,
Yeah.
it's
It's
not
not
like
a
how you
walk in
see
the park.
like I started my business and now I'm a bajillionaire in 2 days. Like no, like that's not the norm, guys.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. And like, I'm curious, like, so you said you're talking a lot about your hot mess and also your very personal health struggles in your
Yeah.
business. Um, and I love that. Do you do you do you set boundaries on what you share and what you don't share? Or do
I
you just really
do.
share freely? Yeah. Okay.
I would say I share, I'm very honest with my ADHD. I'm very
Mm-hmm.
open about my anxiety and depression. Um, there, I do have a boundary, but I also know that eventually I will be sharing that particular part that I'm not sharing right now. Like
Mm-hmm.
I know that
Yeah.
down the road. Um, but yeah, like you have to set your own boundaries. And for me, um, you know, I've mental health has always been a part of my life
Mm-hmm.
for so long, that I think that's why I'm so comfortable with it. Um, because when you're able to open up and see that so many other people
Mm-hmm.
are
Yes.
experiencing the same
It's
thing,
powerful.
it's very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that does not mean that you have to share what I share. What
No,
I
and also means
share,
like you don't have to share everything. Like,
yeah,
sometimes
no,
authenticity gets thrown at with like sharing everything, putting out all your knickers for everyone to see.
right,
It's like, it's not necessarily that. Like, I mean, you can really say, look, certain points I'm not yet there to talk about. Maybe
right.
I will never be, but that's okay.
That's okay. Yeah.
There's another whole bunch of hot mess shit I could talk about.
Yeah. And I
Mm.
think, again, it kind of goes back to like when you're dealing with anxiety and depression, th- there's no way to separate that from your business because it
Yes.
affects it, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That is okay. And maybe when you are in that moment, it's you saying no to your client. I cannot meet and
Yeah.
have, our call. Like I have to prioritize laying in bed.
Yeah.
That's what I have to do. Um,
Yeah. You
and
have
that's
to be
okay.
really, yeah, but it
And it's
takes a lot
hard.
of courage. Yeah. I mean, it takes a lot of courage to, one, like communicating boundaries and then actually following through on set boundaries.
Yeah, and I mean, I always joke. I always say like I'm advanced in the like mental health therapy spectrum. I'm like because I've been in it for so long, so I'm at this point, where thankfully I am
Yeah.
able to recognize,
Yes.
when shit's gonna hit the fan, kind of,
Yeah. Yeah. But that's so
you
important,
know.
right? Like you start to recognize the telltale signs and you're like, oh,
Yeah. And it
if
is
I'm
hard.
not taking care of this now, it's gonna escalate quickly.
Yeah. And it is hard. It is hard. But like even that small boundary of like, no, I'm not in the headspace today to take this call. Can we push it to tomorrow? That's a big step.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because 9 times out of 10, we're going to want to be people pleasing and just power through, right? Like you just power through it. And again, it's kind of like, no, you need to take this step back. And that's why I'm very open with whoever I work with. Like, if your kids are sick, if your kids are crying in the back, like it's okay. Like, I get it. Like, I would, if someone came to me and was like, Laura, I can't like do X, Y, and Z today. Totally, like no worries. And I'll share a little story too.
Yes, please.
In regards to like mental health. So I would say probably like 9 months ago or so, maybe almost a year, I had hired a virtual assistant to help me for a few hours every week, do some things, and fantastic. Fantastic. It was like we were the same person, but yet very complimentary. It was awesome. And eventually, like after a few months, I noticed a lot of differences in like response times from her, and just things were like off. And I was like, oh, it's like I really liked her, and I don't want to have to like find someone else and blah blah blah. And I finally like we hopped on a call, and I was like, hey, like what's going on?
What's
like
happening?
Your work is not what I know it usually is. And she was so taken aback because I wasn't like, okay, the work, like whatever. But I was asking like as like personally, like, is everything okay? Like, and she was so taken aback by like someone genuinely asking about her and not the work, that one is like so sad when you think about it. Like,
yes, it is.
That we are so like, oh no, we're just gonna push through and put on a facade and everything's great and oh yeah. But like I was like, you don't have to tell me your shit. But if you're like, I'm struggling and I can't do X, Y, and Z, let me know. Like you're take care of whatever you have to take care of. Just let me know. And she was so appreciative of that. And I'm so glad that I had that conversation with her because I almost didn't. Because, that can be a dicey conversation sometimes. But I'm so glad that I had that conversation with her because at the core, like, are you okay? Like what like if I need to do something on my end, I would much rather, do that because I think it's a very unique and different perspective. Like when you actually care about the people that you work with, like it's such a like people are not used to that. Like, wait, you actually like care? Like
we kind of gotten lost of the concept of care.
It's like it's not just like the bottom line and meeting deadlines and all that. It's like, and it's I mean that's really sad, but it's also really important for us to know, like, if we're working with people and we do like, ooh, like if this isn't like something's off, like it hasn't been like how she usually is or whatever. It's like
maybe I should check in with her.
Yes.
Right. And I mean I mean that's I love this kind of like no also to end our conversation with, right? Like if you notice something, bring it to the table. And that doesn't go, that's not exclusively for like work relations. If you notice something about your friend changing, like go bring it up to the table, right? And yes, it's never like a nice conversation to go into, but I feel like if you really go from the intention, like with the intention of care, and not like blaming or whatever kind of energies, this will make a big difference. And to again also really, it's always We all know this, but again, it's always so surprising or like astonishing.
Yeah.
And actually, because we seldom do it, right? Like open, honest communication. Yep. We all know we should do it. We all know that's the gold standard.
Yeah.
But we so rarely do it.
Yeah. And that's why like it is hard. And I try, and that doesn't mean like you have to be like, what's going on in your life? Like, it could just be like, even through social media, we get to know each other without ever meeting. And it can even be just like, hey, like that post was really good.
Yeah.
Because we, again, and
it's worth something.
Yeah. It's just like, for me too, and that's a hard part of entrepreneurship, is that you don't have anyone telling you good job, right? Like when you're working for someone else,
you have to tell yourself good job.
Right. But I also think as a collective,
it's also nice to hear
a community, like it's part of the support.
Yes.
And that can really make a big difference. And it doesn't have to, when you're just checking in and being like, hey, that was like really awesome post, or responding to their question or something like that. Like,
yes, yeah,
that goes a long way. But yeah, it's hard because we're like ingrained to just go, scroll. And I'm just a big believer in when you genuinely care for people and about people, there's just only good things can happen from that.
Yeah, I agree. If there's nothing, that's really the starting point. I love that. That's such a good kind of like closing argument.
I rest my case.
Mic drop. So let us now people, we've talked about a lot about how on your socials, how you share openly about your hot mess and your struggles. Where can people find you online?
I am online on all the socials and at SubSupporter, so SUBSUPPORTHER.
Yeah.
You can find me on there, subsupporter.com. And I love just like send me a hello, send me a picture of your dog, send me a hi. Like it's me, it will be me responding. So like I genuinely love that. Meeting new people. So yeah.
I love that. So and I'm always okay. So we're also gonna link it in the show notes, so you don't have if you didn't like catch that. I'm gonna almost have like one last question because I am curious and I always need new material. What book are you currently reading?
Okay, so I will be full disclosure. I am really bad at reading books. Like it's
that's fair enough. That's
but
and what podcast or what TV
show? Look, I'm looking at my phone. Because I'm always on the hunt for a new podcast that will like hold my attention. So there's a couple that I really love. I have a lot that I that I have. So okay, so there's one that I really love. It's Business Minus the Bullshit.
I like that title.
It's strategy for creatives. She gives like just really good nuggets of information and how to like do the things in a manageable way with your business. I love that one. Another one that I found recently is called Marketing Muckraking with Rachel K. Albers.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I love her. I
recently discovered, and I'm like, oh my God, I love you.
Yes, she's amazing.
And like, yeah, again, it's like finding those who like align with you.
Yes.
But also like you can learn from.
Yes, I agree. Like when I sat down to kind of like, okay, like who do I want to talk to in a podcast? And I'm like, oh, I want to talk like with everybody who like feels this message of the Scenic Route resonates with, because all stories are important and valuable. And then I'm like, So I'm probably, I don't know, we should tag her when we share the social. I was like, oh, I really want to have Rachel K. Albers on the podcast. That this would be like an amazing podcast because we could like,
oh my gosh,
like we could like shit on all the systems that keep us in power structures that keep us in place. This would be amazing. So we should tag her definitely. I want to have
and
her
it's
on the
like
podcast.
it's just when you're able to like find that book or podcast or whatever, that a lot of times it's like the simplest things, but it's like that one little shift, you're like, oh my gosh, like
yes, and it's, I don't know, it's always kind of like, sometimes it's a sentence or a half sentence, and maybe you've heard or read it before in another way, but whatever, there was something in that moment that sparked, and that's what matters.
Yeah, for sure.
I love that. Thank you so much for having a sparking conversation with me today, Laura Kockler. Thank you so much for being on a Scenic Route podcast with me.
Thank you.